All right, welcome everyone. Now I would like to give an overview of the topics that I would like to share today. So first of all, I want to explain why fresh perspective on team development will add value to a lot of organizations today. Then I will explain some theory behind the approach, and I will present the framework. And finally, I will show, illustrate how it works in practice and arrange a small demo. So let's kick it off. We know that information technology is a team sport. So value in IT is created when all these people of very different skill sets are working collaboratively. And over the last decade, we saw a lot of new specializations emerging. Of course, that adds complexity to organizing teamwork, and the demand for the markets are raising demand for talent that pulls people of very different backgrounds into cross-functional teams. As well, the changes in the market and the different new regulations raise the bar for technical excellence. And also the emerging technologies require new approaches, different approaches to goal setting and organizing teamwork. The approaches that are more focused on research and experimentation. So we're living in a rapidly changing world. We are facing new challenges, and new challenges require new solutions. Then let's review two approaches to team development. Two existing approaches to team development. One would be adopting an existing method, so a set of good practices, and train the team members to master their roles to perfection. And the other one would be encouraging contributors to take learnings out of experience and craft themselves their ways of working. Both approaches have their limitations. So methods lack flexibility. Often roles and workflows are defined without possibilities to override, and nowadays one size fits all is not working for many organizations. Next, rules created by the other people open the door for all kinds of misinterpretations, misunderstandings, wrong assumptions, and when the team members are not on the same page about what is the right way to proceed, what is the right way to do things, then that creates quite a lot of tensions on the team. Finally, if we are teaching people rules, then we shouldn't probably expect them to challenge those rules. And often the situation when breaking a certain rule is the right thing to do is perceived by the team members as a leadership failure. In turn, experiential approaches also have their limitations. In the first place, people do mistakes, and so do teams. Secondly, any change based on experience makes the evaluation of outcomes a separate task. So in case if we are adopting a certain method and we have mastered some of its rules, then we can consider that already a positive change, because when we master all of this, because our assumption is that when we master all of its rules, then we will achieve the desired outcomes. When it comes to changes based on our understanding of the situation, based on our experience, then understanding whether we are moving in the right direction becomes a separate task. Finally, there is no industry standard for experiential approaches. So there are no hundreds of publications where you can read how other people were solving that particular problem you're facing now. All right. Nevertheless, those two approaches are not mutually exclusive. In fact, what we need is a balanced approach. Considering all the changes which are happening in the modern world, I would even say that we need to shift the accents from following rules towards learning from experience. And over the last decade, as I was working with different teams and digging through piles of professional literature, I can say that I have not encountered such an approach. That's why during the past lockdowns, I took a lot of time on reflecting on my professional experiences, putting together good practices, and summarizing them as a complete framework, which I would like to present, which represents a balanced approach compatible with the existing methods, so the teams can take their existing ways of working and change them evolutionary, applying measurable changes and making progress transparent for each other, leadership, and wider organization. So let's look at the theory behind the framework. I will give you a brief overview. Teamleadsky Framework is focusing on developing dynamic capabilities of the teams. In the organizational theory, dynamic capabilities provide firms and teams with the capacity to change, on the contrast to operational capabilities that provide the capacity to perform ongoing tasks. So dynamic capabilities cannot be developed out of the thin air. So certain important elements have to be present in the teams that enable development of dynamic capabilities. Those elements are called micro-foundations, and we consider qualities of an effective team, those micro-foundations. All right, so we consider the following qualities and capabilities, developing the following qualities and capabilities important for any tech team to be able to bridge this gap between the ideal state of teamwork where they want to be and their current state. So let me give a brief overview of those qualities and capabilities. Talking about the qualities, the level of engagement determines whether you can switch from push to pull management, and teams with a high level of engagement have a lot of ideas both on the solution domain and also on how to address the stakeholders' needs best. The productivity is assessed using the selected performance goals of the team. The level of commitment is reflected in sticking to team agreements and meeting deadlines. And drive is the personal reason for the team member to contribute to the efforts of the team. Talking about the capabilities, every tech team has to deliver, learn, and innovate. Delivering means more than producing working software. That also means sensing the right priorities and acting upon them. Learning, meaning stepping into the new business domains, internalizing new tech stack, new ways of working, and innovating, meaning discovering optimal solutions through prototyping and rapid experimentation, which should be business as usual for modern tech teams. So depending on the projects you're working on, you will need more of some capabilities for your team than the others. Now let's take a look at the remaining elements of the framework. So the ideal desired state. The ideal desired state is an evolutionary goal, which is created by the team members based on their best current understanding of what works for them. And of course, with time, people learn about their collaboration, people learn about the projects they're working on, the environment, the markets, and that's why the ideal state they are understanding evolutionates. The current state, of course, is not ideal. So there are certain factors that affect teamwork in a negative way. And the challenge of the team members is to eliminate those factors, those negative factors, and introduce into work of the team the positive factors that will help to bridge this gap between where they stand and the ideal state where they want to be. Now, let me make all this more clear by showing how that works in practice. And let's start with the workflow. So we do have factors that affect teamwork. The factors that affect teamwork in a positive way, we call drivers, and the factors that affect teamwork in a negative way, we call restrainers. We use drivers to define the ideal state of teamwork. And we use drivers and restrainers to define where we currently stand, our current state. As well, we assess the impact of those factors on the teamwork. And for the current state, we also assess to which extent these factors are present at the moment. Once we have assessed the impact and the presence, then we can compare the current state with the ideal. And when we have done this comparison, then we can think of an actions that we want to undertake in order to bridge the gap. And once we agree on those action points, then we can come back to our desks and put them into live and repeat the process iteratively. So in fact, the approach is very simple. We have the factors that affect teamwork, and we assess two values, impact and presence. Now it's time for a short demo. Demos are always fun. So let me stop sharing the slides and start sharing the app. All right. So we do have here the team, the example team of five contributors. And let's look at their ideal state that they have defined. So we can see, let me make sure that I'm sharing this particular page. Yes, that works. Okay. Yes. So let's look at the ideal state that the team has defined. So we can see that this is a data science team, which is working on the churn prediction project, some churn prediction project, yes. And they have decided that the following positive factors ideally would be present and should be present in their work. So they want a stakeholder representative available for consultations, makes sense. Then they want to work cross-functionally together with the analysts. Yeah, that's usually a good idea. And then they want to make their work process more disciplined and controllable. Okay, so they have assessed also the impact on the qualities and capabilities of their work, the impact of every driver in this list, and then they got some definition of their ideal state where they want to get. Now let's look at their current state. So we see here from the, judging by the name, this is the current state of this team for calendar week 45. And we can see already in the diagram that there is a gap between the ideal state and the current state. So they are not yet there where they want to be. We can also see that they have made a progress since their past assessment, since their past state. Maybe that was in week 44, if they are assessing the current state every week. So, and we can see that they need to push more on delivery and they want to improve their commitment for sure. So let's look at the drivers and restrainers. These three drivers are taken from the ideal state. However, if we look at the presence, then we can see that these drivers are not fully present in the work of the team. So maybe the stakeholder representative was available, but well, probably 80% of the time. Probably some requests stayed unanswered. And that's why there is a gap between the desired state and the current state. And then there were a couple of drivers that the team encountered within that particular week when they were assessing the current state. So they were working together with data engineering, collaborating on some Kafka streaming topic. So that was working well. Then they're getting better and organizing their work. That's also cool. That's also great. However, there are also a couple of restrainers. Like, for example, stakeholders asked to change the target variable for their predictions, which is maybe a huge setback actually. And yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's very annoying and familiar to many of us. 40 minutes limit for Zoom calls, not good. So they discussed the situation and they summarized some action points that they want to act upon. So they want to continue the collaboration with data engineering, which is working out well. And also they want to continue on the other topics here. And also they want to clarify what led the stakeholders to change their mind about the target variable and to avoid those situations in the future. So as you can see, you can have very good constructive discussions and concrete discussions with the team based on this information. Now, let me come back to the presentation, and I would like to share a couple of other benefits and characteristics of this approach. Awesome. And yes, the other feature of the framework that I would like to talk about is its flexibility. So as you have probably noticed, the role of the person who is facilitating the framework is not defined. So it's totally open, it's up to you. It can be agile coach, team lead, a member of a team, some members of a team, a group of people. So whatever works best in your particular situation. As well, the activities and cadences are totally open. You can decide how often you want to review your ideal state and current state, and also how exactly are you going to define your ideal state or current state. That's also up to you. And well, I would say that liberating structures, game storming, and of course your imagination are your best friends here. Moreover than that, every element of the framework in theory can be reviewed and adjusted. So you actually can use the framework as a 3D printer, which is printing a completely different version of itself. Of course, you need to have very good reasons to do that and a buy-in of the team, but it's possible. And another powerful feature that I would like to talk about, to share, is the great level of transparency that this framework provides. So first of all, you know exactly the issues that every team is facing, described by the members of the team. And you understand the severity of these issues, and you understand the scale across multiple teams. As well, you keep track of the measurable progress of the teams, and you see what works best for which team. So, and that works for all kinds of teams, on-site teams, remote teams, mixed teams, outsourced teams. You get that great level of transparency. And that enables leadership, management, agile coaches, all kinds of decision makers take very impactful decisions on how to support the teams in the organization in their development, on their development journey. So this is everything that I wanted to share today. Please shoot me a message, visit teamleadsky.com. You can find there the articles where the framework is described in more detail. You can enroll into an online training and video course, and you can also find there all support and tools that you need to adopt the framework in your organization. As well, I will be glad to see you on the workshops that will follow, where you can discover the framework further by using it in practice. Thank you for your attention.